Our story today is extremely intriguing, and its events may confuse you. Because this old man found a beautiful woman in the field, took her home with him, and after a few days, he could not resist her beauty. He decided to approach her in an immoral way. But before we get into the details of the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin the story from the beginning. In a village in Upper Egypt, there lived an old farmer named Uncle Hussein, who had reached an advanced age. He lived alone after his wife had passed away many years ago. He had no children nor a companion, and he spent his days tending to the small piece of land he inherited from his father, and his nights in peace and solitude, with nothing but the sound of the wind or the barking of a distant dog to break the quiet. One calm morning, as usual, Uncle Hussein went out to the field, carrying his hoe over his shoulder with some dry bread and water. While working among the tall maize stalks, he noticed something moving between them. He stopped, squinting his weak eyes, thinking it was either a stray animal or a thief. But as he got closer, he was shocked by what he saw. It was a young woman, beautiful but with tired features, wearing a torn black cloak, with her black hair scattered over her shoulders and eyes filled with sadness and fatigue. She sat on the ground, silent and unmoving, as if a refugee from another world. Uncle Hussein approached her and softly asked, "Who are you, my daughter? And what brings you to this place?" She raised her head and looked at him with tear-filled eyes, but did not answer. She only gazed at him with a look that seemed to plead for him not to ask more questions. Uncle Hussein was puzzled, but his heart softened for her, and he felt that this woman must have gone through something very difficult. He said to her, "Come, my daughter, come to my house. You can rest and eat a bite, and then we'll see what your story is." He took her to his modest home, offered her simple food, and gave her a clean cloak that once belonged to his wife. He let her stay in his daughter's room, as she had left the village many years ago. The next day, the woman started to regain some of her strength and spoke a little. She said her name was Leila, and that she had escaped from difficult circumstances, but she did not reveal what had happened to her. As the days passed, she started to move around the house, cooking food, cleaning, and treating Uncle Hussein with kindness and respect. With each passing day, Uncle Hussein felt his heart, once dead, begin to stir again. He thought to himself, "Perhaps God wanted to bring happiness into my final years. Why not marry her? She is alone, and I am alone. I have gotten used to her presence and her conversation." He began to hint at his desire to marry her, but she would just smile without giving a clear response and would politely avoid the conversation. Then, one night, while searching for an old blanket in her room to keep warm, he noticed a small wooden box hidden under the bed. His curiosity led him to slowly pull it out and open it. What he found was a surprise. He carefully opened the box as though he feared it might contain something alive. His hand trembled a little, not from fear, but from the strange sensation that had settled in his heart ever since Leila entered his life. When he lifted the lid, he found many carefully folded papers, some old photographs, and a letter written in elegant handwriting, but in a language he did not understand. There was also a delicate gold necklace engraved with a man's name he had never heard before. He reached in and started to examine the items with astonishment. These were not ordinary belongings of a rural woman, but seemed to indicate a different, mysterious, perhaps dangerous past. At the bottom of the box, there was a small, tightly sewn pouch. When he opened it, old, strange coins spilled out, coins that he had never seen before in his life. His heart raced as he carefully rearranged the items as they were and slowly closed the box. At that moment, he realized that Leila was not just a woman fleeing difficult circumstances, as she had claimed. There was something hidden, something she was trying to conceal. That night, he went to bed but could not sleep. He tossed and turned, asking himself, who is this woman really? And what is she hiding about her past? The next morning, he looked at her differently. She was standing in the yard, holding a plate of food and smiling at him as she did every day. But there was something in her smile that no longer reassured him. It seemed as if she were hiding 1,000 untold stories behind her expression. In the days that followed that night, something changed in Uncle Hussein's heart. He no longer looked at Leila with the same innocent affection, nor did he converse with her as before. He started observing her actions closely, noting when she would leave and when she would return, what she carried in her hands, and even paying attention to her silence. As for her, she felt his change, though she didn't say anything. But she too seemed to become more cautious, as if she sensed that her secret was on the verge of being uncovered. She no longer left her room open as she used to, and she no longer spoke about herself even in the simplest of topics. One evening, as she was preparing dinner, Uncle Hussein approached her with a calm but firm tone and said, "Leila, you're hiding something from me." She slowly raised her head, and there was an unexpected tension in her eyes, but she quickly smiled a small smile and said, "What do you mean, Uncle Hussein? I have nothing but exhaustion and a desire for peace." He looked at her for a long time, but did not continue the conversation. He turned and left for his seat. After that brief encounter, the atmosphere in the house became charged with silence. Each of them watched the other, and each of them hid many unanswered questions in their hearts. Uncle Hussein, every time he passed by her room, heard faint whispers, sometimes like crying, and sometimes it seemed to him that she was speaking to someone, though no one else was there, but the two of them. One night, he decided to follow her. He waited until the lights were off and quietly slipped between the corridors, approaching her room. He found the door slightly open, and through the crack he saw something that bewildered him. He stepped closer slowly and bent down a little to see clearly what was happening inside the room. Leila was sitting on the floor, unaware of his presence, holding the same box that he had opened a few days ago. But this time, she wasn't organizing it. She was to its contents. Her face was pale as she comprehensible words. Her eyes closed as though she was invoking something or speaking to someone far away. Suddenly, she reached out to the adjacent wall, removed a small piece of wood that covered a gap in the wall, and pulled out a carefully folded paper. Uncle Hussein remained where he was, too afraid to enter or retreat. His heart raced, and every part of him screamed that this woman was not what she seemed. The next day, he said nothing about what he had seen. He only observed her in silence while she continued to act the part of the simple, lost woman. But something had changed inside him. He had decided that he would find out the truth no matter what. As the sun set that day, Leila left the house unexpectedly, taking the dirt road behind the houses, looking around her. She didn't use the usual path to the market and didn't tell him where she was going. Uncle Hussein took his cane and quietly followed her, hiding behind the trees. She reached the edge of the large field, a place where no one usually passed at that time. There, she met a stranger. The meeting was silent, full of signals and glances. There was a language between them that didn't require words. She gave him something small from her hand, then suddenly turned, as if she felt something. Uncle Hussein hid behind a fig tree in the shadows, too scared to move. His heart pounded and his eyes couldn't believe what they were seeing. Leila, the quiet woman who had entered his house, now stood in the open, handing something to a strange man with no clear features in the dark. He seemed tense, as if they were meeting at a secret time and place that no one should discover. Uncle Hussein couldn't hear what they were saying, but the movements of their hands and her sudden glance made him feel that she sensed his presence. He stayed where he was, not daring to move. He waited until their brief meeting ended and saw the man disappear between the crops. Leila then headed back toward the house. Uncle Hussein returned to his house a few minutes before her, sitting on the porch with his cane, his eyes focused on the ground, but his head swirling with questions. Who was this man? Why was she meeting him at night? What had she given him? What was she hiding in her papers and box, her whispers? After a while, Leila entered, wearing a calm smile, and said, explaining her delay, "I was just buying a few things from the neighbor's daughter. I got delayed a bit." Uncle Hussein nodded his head without looking at her and said, "It's fine, my daughter. We have plenty of time. But the conscience is always narrower than the night." She paused for a moment and then went into her room without replying. That night, Uncle Hussein couldn't sleep. He replayed everything that had happened since Leila's arrival. The silence, the mystery in her words, the box, the letters, the nighttime meeting. Everything seemed now to be part of something bigger, something he didn't yet understand. The next morning, he decided to return to the field, not to plow the land, but to search for any clue that might reveal the truth. He walked through the crops with his cane, looking around, listening carefully, until he spotted something half buried in the soil at the edge of the field, something that seemed to have been deliberately hidden, but not well done. He approached slowly, crouched down, and cautiously moved the dirt off it. It was a small metal box, different from the wooden one he had found in her room. He opened it slowly, and inside was something he never expected. A small device, like a transmitter or recorder, and beneath it, a collection of old and recent photographs. Some showed men in military uniforms, and others showed Leila with strangers, in places he had never seen before. Some taken in secret, others seemed to be part of tracking or surveillance operations. In that moment, Uncle Hussein felt the earth shift beneath his feet. There was no longer any doubt. This woman was not a victim of injustice, nor was she poor. She was hiding a dangerous identity. He returned home, his heart heavy with the truth. But he didn't confront her immediately. He sat on the porch, waiting for her. When she entered a little while later, she stopped in the middle of the path when she saw his grim face. He spoke calmly. "I've spent years in loneliness, and I thought God had sent me a companion in my old age. But you are even more of a stranger than your name. Who are you, Leila? Or whatever your name is." She was silent, setting the basket in her hand aside. She neither denied nor cried, but in a quiet voice, she said, "I never meant to harm you. I swear, you are the only one who's treated me with humanity for years. But there are things in life that don't let go of their owners. He asked, his voice harsh, "Who are you working for, and why did you come to a simple old man like me?" She sighed, sitting on the edge of the step, and resigned, said, "I didn't come for you. I was just running away, but when I found you, I couldn't go on with what I was planning. But time is running faster than me, stronger than me." He leaned forward, holding out the box he had found. She looked at it, then at the ground, and defeated said, "It's over. There's no use. You've seen everything." In the next moment, Uncle Hussein heard a loud knock on the door, voices shouting names he didn't recognize, and the sound of engines stopping at the house. Leila looked at him and urgent said, "If you love me, don't turn me in." She stood up and backed into the house, running toward her room, closing the door behind her. Uncle Hussein stood in the middle of the yard, unsure whether his heart was leaning toward the truth or toward the woman who had brought life back to his soul in his final years.